Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am David Paulides. For over 15 years now, I have been deep in the trenches investigating a phenomenon that the mainstream media and the National Park Service simply refuse to acknowledge. We call it Missing 411. And let me tell you, it is a reality that is far more disturbing and far more complex than the general public is ever led to believe by the talking heads on the news. I have written the books and I have spent countless nights looking at thousands of data points on my maps. I have traveled across the country to interview the families personally, and I have sat in their living rooms feeling their grief. The facts I have uncovered over these years simply do not align with the official narratives being pushed by the authorities. There is something happening out there in the shadows that defies every bit of simple human explanation. Lately, my inbox has been absolutely flooded with a huge influx of emails from people asking for my take on the Smiley Face killer theory. They see these young men who are high achievers and athletic suddenly disappearing from well-lit urban areas. They see them being found in the water weeks later, and they see that cryptic graffiti nearby. They think it is a gang or a group of coordinated people, but I am here to show you a much darker side of the story. When you actually take the time to look at the cold hard facts of these cases, the human explanation starts to fall apart completely. Today we are going to compare these two ideas side by side. We are going to look at the specific profile points that link the deep woods disappearances to the city streets. I am going to show you why I believe we are dealing with something far more ominous than just men with cans of spray paint. Let us start with a case that haunts me. Imagine it is June 12th in the year 2005 inches, the quiet town of Casnovia, Michigan. A 22-year-old man named Todd Geib is at an outdoor orchard party. He is a young man who is well-liked and happy with everything in the world going for him. At around 12:45 in the morning, he decides to head out and he calls a friend on his cell phone. He tells his friend very clearly, "I am in a field and I am okay." And then the line goes dead. That was the last time anyone on this earth ever heard his voice. Now I want you to really look at the geography of this specific location in Michigan. This is not the middle of the Amazon jungle or some vast unexplored wilderness. It is rural Michigan with farmhouses and open fields and clear lines of sight. For 3 long weeks, hundreds of volunteers and highly trained K-9 units combed every single inch of that area. They had law enforcement helicopters with advanced infrared sensors flying overhead day and night looking for any heat signature. They found absolutely nothing. No scent for the dogs to follow, and no tracks in the dirt, and no discarded clothing. It was as if Todd Geib had simply ceased to exist in our physical dimension. Then, on the 21st day of the search, Todd is suddenly found in Ovid Hall Lake. This lake is less than a single mile from where he originally vanished from that party. The strange part, the part they cannot explain, is that this lake had been searched repeatedly by professional dive teams during the 3 weeks. They found nothing until that exact moment on the 21st day. It was as if he appeared out of thin air. But here's where the story gets truly strange and defies all known human logic. Todd was not floating face down in the water like a typical drowning victim would be found. He was found standing straight up in the water. His head and his shoulders were positioned above the surface, as if he had just been placed there by an invisible hand, like he was waiting to be found. This is not how biology works, and this is not how bodies behave in water. The toxicology reports came back from the lab completely clean. There were no drugs in his system and no alcohol levels that would ever cause a grown athletic man to drown in a calm lake. But the real kicker was the coroner report. The medical examiner stated he had only been dead for a period of 2 to 5 days. This leaves a massive and terrifying hole in the timeline. Where was Todd Geib for the other 16 days of that massive search? The Smiley Face theorists would try to tell you that a gang held him captive somewhere. But there were no ligature marks on his wrists and no signs of struggle on his body. There was no Smiley Face graffiti anywhere near that lake or the surrounding property. This fits the missing 411 profile perfectly. The victim is found in an area previously searched, and the timeline of death makes no physical sense. The authorities have no answer. I want to talk about the book I wrote titled A Sobering Coincidence. In that book, I took these missing 411 profile points and applied them to urban environments to see if the patterns held up. In the wilderness, we often see people disappear near boulder fields or massive deposits of granite rock. In the city, we see them disappear near bodies of water. But the similarities in the how are what should really scare you to your core. Victims who survive or witnesses nearby often describe a zone of silence right before a disappearance happens. It is a terrifying moment where all natural sound like birds or insects or wind just stops instantly. We also see a consistent and baffling failure of K9 units in these specific cases. The best bloodhounds in the business get to a certain point and they just sit down and refuse to track. They lose the scent as if the person was lifted up. And then we absolutely have to talk about the sudden changes in the weather. Almost every time within hours of the disappearance, a massive storm or a heavy rain rolls in. These storms wash away any physical evidence, and they thwart the search efforts of the ground teams. Is that just a coincidence that it happens over and over again in these cases? I do not think so, and neither should you if you value the truth. Take the high-profile case of Dakota James in Pittsburgh back in 2017. He was another young and athletic man who disappeared after a night out with his friends. He was caught on a CCTV camera walking toward a bridge, and then he simply vanished into thin air. He was found 40 days later, miles downriver from where he was last seen. The Smiley Face researchers jumped all over this case looking for a human killer, but they could not explain how his body was in such good condition after supposedly being in a river for 40 days. If a body is in the water for that long, the biology of decomposition is very predictable and very gruesome. The body does not look like Dakota did when they pulled him out. The biology of the human body simply does not allow for that kind of preservation, unless he was not in the water the entire time. I have spent a long time being very careful about what I say to the public. I am an investigator and I like hard evidence and verifiable data points. But when the evidence consistently defies the laws of physics, you have to look at other possibilities. In many of these cases, witnesses have described something they cannot quite see clearly. A shimmering in the air like a predator camouflage, or a literal glitch in our reality. I believe we are dealing with invisible entities that occupy a space we do not understand. I know it sounds like science fiction to some of you, but you have to listen to the experienced hunters who have contacted me. These are men with decades of experience who suddenly feel they are being watched by something they cannot see. They describe the Oz effect where the world goes cold and the birds stop chirping. Something is out there. These entities, if they exist, are not bound by our laws of travel or our physical obstacles. They do not leave tracks for K9S, and they can move a body from a field to a lake that has already been cleared by divers. They might even be able to manipulate the local weather to cover their tracks from us. The Smiley Face graffiti you see is just a distraction. It is a human reaction to something they cannot explain. It is a desperate way for people to put a human face on a terrifyingly non-human predator. I am not here to tell you exactly what to believe tonight. I am here to give you the facts that the authorities want to ignore because they simply have no answers to give. Whether you are in the heart of Yosemite or downtown Minneapolis, the rules of the game are changing. The Park Service will not tell you this, but the patterns are there for anyone who is willing to look at the data with an open mind. Be aware of your surroundings at all times when you are near the water or the deep woods. If the world around you suddenly goes silent, or if you feel that unexplained chill, just get out of there. Do not wait and do not look back to see what is there. Your life may depend on that decision. I will keep digging and I will keep asking the questions that the people in power do not want answered. We owe it to the victims and we owe it to the families who are still suffering to find the truth. Thank you for supporting this research and for keeping an open mind to the impossible. I am David Paulides, and this is Missing 411. Stay safe out there, everyone. We will talk again soon.